Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm Jason Miller. Tonight on the Evan Miller Report, breaking news. China is suspected of a massive security breach of federal personal data. We got the latest report on tonight's program. Also tonight, Australia has rejected refugees that have arrived from Cambodia for resettlement. Here at home, the U.S. says that they might deploy missiles to Europe to counter the Russia aggression in Ukraine. In U.S. news today, a Texas man who is the oldest inmate to be scheduled for death row is executed. In Oregon, tonight, the county votes against enforcing a state gun law. And today is National Donut Day. We'll tell you where you may be able to get some free donuts on this Thursday, June the 4th. I'm Jason Miller. Corey Evan is off tonight. The final edition of the Evan Miller Report for this Thursday, June the 4th, starts right now.
Live from Southern California, this is the Evan Miller Report. Jason Miller with news and politics, Corey Evan with business and entertainment. This is the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media. Here now, Jason Miller.
And a very good evening on this Thursday, June the 4th, 2015. I'm Jason Miller. Corey Evan is off tonight. He will have a closing statement at the end of this program. And for those of you who have not heard, tonight will be the final edition of the Evan Miller Report on the SHR Media Network. We'll have more on the last of our final program later in the show with some looking back at the last 2 years that the Evan Miller Report has been on the air, as well as some of the best of lawsuits across America with Corey Evan. He will have that later on tonight. But first, ladies and gentlemen, we start off here with breaking news here at home this evening. China-based hackers are suspected of breaking into the computer networks of the U.S. Government Personnel Office and stealing identity information of at least 4 million federal workers. This coming from American officials today. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement that data from the Office of Personnel Management and the Interior Department had been compromised. The statement says, quote, "The FBI is conducting an investigation to identify how and why this occurred." End of quote. The hackers were believed to be based in China, said Senator Susan Collins, a Maine Republican. Collins, a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said the breach was yet another indication of a foreign power probing successfully and focusing on what appears to be data that would identify people with security clearances. A U.S. official who declined to be named because he was not authorized to publicly discuss the data breach said it could potentially affect every federal agency. One key question is whether intelligence agency employee information was stolen. Former government employees are affected as well against this. The Office of Personnel Management is the human resources department for the federal government, and it conducts background checks for security clearances. The OPM conducts more than 90% of federal background investigations, according to its website. And, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you keep an eye on all these stories throughout the night. The first refugees to be resettled in Cambodia from the Australian detention center on Nauru have arrived in Phnom Penh. The 4 people, 3 Iranians and 1 Ryukyuan, were the only people to volunteer for the controversial scheme. Last year, Cambodia agreed to take in refugees rejected by Australia in return for $31 million in aid. Rights groups have accused Australia of shirking international responsibility by not taking in refugees. Australia does not allow asylum seekers or refugees onto its shores, instead detaining them at facilities on the island nation of Nauru and Manus Island in Papua New Guinea. Moving on to news here from Canada tonight, where their Prime Minister Stephen Harper said today that Russia should never be allowed back in the group of 7 as long as Vladimir Putin is still their president. Harper said this in an exclusive interview with the AP that he expects the group would never let Putin back in. He made the remarks ahead of his trip to Ukraine and the group of 7 meeting in Germany this week. Harper said even long before the Ukraine crisis, Russia has eroded any basis for belonging to the group of wealthy nations. He also noted that Russia has ramped up long-range bomber patrols near North America's airspace. The G7 suspended Russia last year, but hasn't ruled out welcoming them back yet. I don't think Russia under Vladimir Putin belongs to the G7, period, Harper said. Canada would very, very strongly oppose Putin ever sitting around that table again. It would require consensus to bring back Russia to the back, and that consensus will not happen. All right, folks, moving on tonight and staying with Russia, the Obama administration is now weighing a range of aggressive responses to Russia's alleged violation of Cold War-era nuclear treaty, including deploying land-based missiles in Europe that could preemptively destroy Russian weapons. This counterforce option is among the possibilities the administration is considering as it reviews its entirety towards Russia in light of Moscow's military intervention in Ukraine and its annexation of Crimea and other actions the U.S. deems confrontational in Europe and beyond. The options go so far as one implied but not stated implicitly that would improve the ability of the U.S.'s nuclear weapons to destroy military targets on Russia territory. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the final time tonight, it's now time for the national news. In the state of Texas, the oldest prisoner on death row was executed tonight. Lester Bauer Jr. received a lethal dose of parpitabile for killing 4 people in an airplane hangar on a ranch about 60 miles from Dallas in the year 1983. He was executed hours after the U.S. Supreme Court rejected an appeal from his lawyers. The Associated Press reported Bauer snorts quietly half a dozen times before receiving the injection and then stopped moving. He was then pronounced dead 18 minutes later. Bauer, 67, has maintained his innocence, saying the men were alive when he left after buying an airplane. Prosecutors said he wanted to buy the airplane from one of the men, but in an attempt to hide the purchase from his wife, he went to the hangar and then stole it. Bauer initially lied to his wife and investigators. He then later admitted that he had been to the ranch where the 4 victims, Bob Tate, Philip Good, Jerry Brown, no relation to Governor Jerry Brown, and Ronald Mays, were found. Good was sheriff's deputy, and Mays was a former police officer. To Oregon, where gun control advocates on Wednesday decried a misguided political maneuver vote by Oregon County Commissioners against enforcement of a new statewide gun background check requirements. Lane County's commissioners, in a 4-1 vote on Tuesday, decreed that local government could not afford to investigate violations of the new law and affirmed the right of the people to keep and bear arms under the U.S.'s Constitution's Second Amendment. Proponents of the stricter gun sale rules, which go in effect in the month of August, questioned whether the Lane County resolution would have any practical effect. This is just a way for Republicans to curry favor with Oregon firearms advocates. Penny Amato, executive director of Ceasefire Oregon, a nonprofit organization that aims to reduce gun violence, said on Wednesday. Commissioner Jay Bosfish, who lobbied against the background check legislation before it passed back in May, told Reuters and ITN on Wednesday that the commission's vote reflected on both ideological concerns and financial realities. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the business news. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed 164 points to 17,912. The S&P 500 fell 18 points to 2,095, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ dropped down 42 points to 5,057. Greece has told the IMF it will delay Friday's payment of 216 British pounds or 300 million euros debt repayment and bundle June's payments together. Separately, the IMF released its latest assessment on the U.S. economy, in which it cut the country's growth forecast and advised the Federal Reserve not to raise rates until next year. Meanwhile, the price of oil also fell ahead of Friday's meeting of the oil-producing cartel OPEC. An update on a story we brought to you last week on the Evan Miller Report. Charter Communications, who is buying locally Time Warner Cable, will begin carrying Los Angeles Dodgers' own cable channel Sportsnet LA next Tuesday in the Southern California market, beginning next week. The move comes less than 2 weeks after Charter clinched the nearly $57 billion deal to acquire Time Warner Cable, which until now had been the only major TV operator to carry the Dodgers channel in Southern California. The Dodgers are an iconic franchise and part of the community, said Tom Rutledge, chief executive of Charter Communications. Charter's move breaks a 14-month logjam that has prevented thousands, if not millions, of Dodger fans in the LA region from receiving the channel. Charter has been one of the primary pay TV company holdouts that has refused to carry the channel, which is owned by the Guggen Baseball Management Company. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and take a break here on this program. When we come back, our final interview on the program tonight is someone conservative. That's right, it's the exceptional conservative. He'll be joining us for my final interview on this very network on the Evan Miller Report when we return.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog. Now, back to the Sackheads.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Radio.
And welcome back to the Evan Miller Report. I'm Jason Miller. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead, and we normally don't do this, but we're going to make a call live here on the air, because our last time to speak with the exceptional conservative himself, Ken McClinton, as we try to bring him on the air here today.
A mailbox belonging to 20255.
Well, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, Ken McClinton did not answer his phone at the particular point, so we hope that everything is well with him tonight. We were expecting him on the air to join us for our final interview here on the program. Sometimes these things don't work out exactly as planned here on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, just like to thank you for joining us for the past 2 years. It has been an honor being on the air all this time. So if Ken McClinton is listening on the network, and give us a call at the network, and I'm sure you have our number here, and go ahead and give us a call in if we can get you for that interview, sir. We're hoping we can get you on here in the next couple moments here. All right, folks, meanwhile, did you know today is National Donut Day? Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Many donut places across the country are celebrating the day. Today. And a lot of people think, when they think donuts, I believe we may have Ken here. Do we have you, Ken?
You have me, sir. Thank you so much for having me on the air with you tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you on, especially on this National Donut Day. Hopefully you got a donut along with your coffee this morning, sir.
No donut, no coffee, but, sir, you're about to end your Evan Miller Report with one of the big scoops of the night. No one else has it. I'm going to give it to you first.
Well, go ahead, sir.
The D.C. Police Department has just released the video of the suspects and their vehicles involved in the killing of my daughter.
Well, that is certainly some great news, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who don't know, Ken McClinton, who is the host of the Exceptional Conservative Show on this network, coming up after our final program tonight, his daughter, Sharnice Militant, was murdered in the street last week in Washington, D.C. Ken, and as I stated many a times, our condolences to you for that, but this is a major development considering. Why don't you tell our audience who are not familiar with us, who may be new to this story, what happened to your daughter last week?
Well, actually, my daughter was coming home from reporting and on a story on Capitol Hill, and as she was making the transfer from bus line to connector bus, she was walking through a gas station area, as we have always told her to stay in well-lit areas. Well, there was an altercation between two gang members, and one of the gang members pulled her to him to block an impending bullet coming from the gun of the other gang member. She was struck dead square in the chest, and she was dropped to the ground by the gang member, and all of them escaped. What happened with my daughter after that, we're still gaining details on, but Officer M.D. Smith of the D.C. Police Department, and I love the police. I just want to let everybody know I love the police and I love the detectives. He held my baby until she was taken to Prince George's Hospital Trauma Center, where she was pronounced dead. It has been an anguishing 8 days because we have not seen our baby since Wednesday morning. And we will have our first look at her tomorrow. And so we have been working feverishly. Ralph Chittum, Lonnie Poindexter, Eugene Kinlow, and other civic leaders and spiritual leaders in Washington, D.C., to pray up a miracle, an investigative miracle, because she was declared a cold case on Monday of this week. That miracle is beginning to happen, and tonight the D.C. Police Department released not only the video, but identifying at least 14 suspects and 7 vehicles involved in this particular activity. 14 suspects.
Wow. 14
Okay.
people. So now we can confirm here, Ken, that this was probably, and I don't like to make assumptions on this program, but it is probably gang-related.
It is most definitely gang-related. And what's even better about this, I'm very glad that they released the news tonight before the evening news began. But that is a desperate sign for all of us that, well, not necessarily desperate in the sense that they can't find them, but desperate in the sense that those who have been evading are about to be captured. There is no place you can go on this earth where we don't know who you are now. We know who you are. We know the vehicles that you have. And all the mamas out there who have been holding them in unrighteousness, their day of reckoning is shortcoming. It is far better for them to surrender now. And I can assure you that there are others out there in the community that are looking for them for a $25,000 reward. It is far better that you surrender tonight and go to the police station where you can be well protected and taken care of, rather to be left to the throes of individuals who wish to pursue, for any great gain, $25,000 in reward to bring you in.
And Ken, this is out of your own money, your own personal bank account, because you want to know what happened to your daughter. You want to know why this tragedy happened.
Hold a second.
I'm asking this as a question.
Yeah, the $25,000 reward is from the District of Columbia.
Wow,
really? Yeah. And one of the great things about this is it's not the only unsolved case in the District of Columbia. There are 31 unsolved cold cases in the district. I believe this one has tonight just heated up. And I am telling every American, if you know, and you can go to the Exceptional Conservative Show Facebook page, or you can go to the Ken McClinton Facebook page, and you can click on and you can see the persons and you can see their vehicles. If you know them, it's better for you now to call and get them arrested tonight. I assure you, because our community is very angry about this particular situation, and it's far better for them to be safe and captured.
Yes, I would agree with that. And, you know, I'm very surprised because, Ken, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I've listened to you for a long time, and you have been very critical of local D.C. government as of late, whether it has to do with gun rights laws or just the way local government is run in D.C. You've been very critical of them of this point. And, of course, this is very surprising, this case, because this happened to you personally. You became part of the news. Your daughter became part of the news. Not only a local headline on the local news in D.C., but a national headline, not even a national headline now, but an international story. You're being reported on in Japan. You're being reported on in the U.K. You're being reported on in the Middle East of what has happened with your daughter tonight. What is your thoughts to the D.C. government in the way they have handled your daughter's case?
Well, I'm going to say this. For Detective Chanel Howard and her team of 20 detectives who have been working on this since the moment she was shot, I want to thank you all so much for your hard work and your efforts in getting out the information to the people in the community. I want to also thank the police, especially Officer M.D. Smith, for holding my baby. You held my baby in my place. And I will forever be grateful to you for holding my baby until she drew her last breath. So I love the police. I love the detectives. I know what they're under. I know what they suffer. I know what they go through. But I also know that our government is sick in the head. And there's a difference between those that are employed to do something and those who are voted to do something. And I have a great contention for individuals who have held my hand, who have prayed with me, who have come and visited my home. I had the Honorable Mayor Muriel Bowser visit my home, and she knows exactly how I feel on a $200 million train to nowhere, and which had become a blasted international editorial about her. So it was kind of an awkward experience, but nevertheless, I appreciate the condolences and the well wishes, but I will never, to the day I draw my last breath, ever give in and believe that the government, the way it is run today, is the way that it is a perfect way to be run.
Absolutely right. And you know what? I give it to the mayor, and I give it to city council members because I've read the stories. I've listened to the reports off local television out here, even though I'm all the way out here in San Diego. And ladies and gentlemen, honest to God, Ken and I, we only know each other by this form of communication, by radio, by telephone usually. I have never met you in person, Ken. But telling by what your family, by how you present yourself every night on the Exceptional Conservative Show, and I saw fully of how your family was on Friday when I watched that report from local station WTTG in Washington, D.C., Lene Lewis's report, that you, sir, are a true American, and not only are you're going to make sure that your daughter didn't die in vain, you want to make sure to help other people who have been killed in the same way. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how you want to help other people who have been in similar situations, their families, per se?
Listen, we even met this afternoon with the grandmother of one of the unsolved murders. We happened to have our funeral scheduled on the same day, and we met in a parking lot, no less, in a shopping mall, and we were able to pick each other out. Listen, nobody wants to be a member of this alumnus, where you bury your child before you go to the grave. This is not what we intend. It may be what God intends, but it is not what we intend and desire. But to know that there are others out there with the same pain, the same agony, and also without the hope that we have of a video that catches the suspects involved in this particular crime. They have gone months and some years without any notice from the police. So we are binding together. We are fighting together. I'm working with Ralph Chittums and Lonnie Poindexter. You may know Lonnie Poindexter from Freedom Journal Radio Network. Chittums is the D.C. Vice Chairman of the GOP. We are working right now to put together a commissioner team to solve all 31 of the open cold cases in the District of Columbia for this year. We are trying to make a commitment that there will never, ever be a cold case in the District of Columbia, and we will work gosh darn hard every single moment, not just for Sharnice Milton, but for every child, every parent who has a situation like this. This is unbearable, it's untenable, and it's unacceptable.
You know what, Ken? You sort of are bringing the country together when it comes to this, because this doesn't only happen in Washington, D.C. I was listening to your very program last night. I forget the expert who you had on last night. But this is happening in every major city, a national crime wave that has been moving around. And I hope you're successful in what you're trying to do in Washington, D.C., and that this triggers an effect that happens nationally, happens in Los Angeles, happens in Chicago, happens in San Diego, happens in Dallas. I can go on and on, Ken. I certainly hope what you're doing will have the effect to spread this around the country. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a political issue. This isn't a political issue. This is just simple human decency to be able to find people who have done something wrong here and solve the case and give these families some closure here. To give your family closure, Ken, you lost your daughter. You haven't seen your daughter, as you said, for 8 days. You know, and you haven't seen her yet, and obviously, and it must tear you apart.
Well, my wife and I will have our time to grieve. We spend a lot of our time now trying to minister to the world, to the nation, to the local church family members, and so on, just to let everyone know, listen, God has my baby. She is standing at the right hand of the Father, worshiping Him, worshiping Jesus Christ. I'm at peace with that. What I'm not at peace with are bureaucrats and government hanger-ons who have settled out with the understanding that this is just a way of life. This is just the way things go. We should just accept it, roll over, and die. Not Kim McClinton. And I assure you, the Exceptional Conservative Show will, to its death day, fight to make certain that these situations never occur again in the District of Columbia. And we will begin working together on this commission very soon. We will also be calling for a national prayer day on the last Sunday of this month. And we will be praying for all the cold cases that have not been closed successfully. So trust me, we are not finished. We may be done in certain areas, but we are not finished. My baby's life is not in vain, and neither will her death be.
Absolutely. All right, Ken. Well, we're almost running out of time with you, and I don't want to keep you too long because with the Exceptional Conservative Show comes up at the top of the hour on this very network. Finally, with you, I just want to share a couple memories I've had with you. We've worked a lot of days together, certainly a few long nights together, breaking some big stories. Remember the last big night that we had on air together was the midterm elections over in 2014. That was airing here on SHR Media, and we had a very long night of it. You did your own special on the Exceptional Conservative Show. We were doing our own special here on SHR regarding that. And amazing that the GOP took it over, but the GOP not doing what they said they were going to do. And what can we do as Americans to be able to, I guess, fight against this? Because it doesn't seem like we have any of the political parties on our side. It seems they have their own political interest.
I will tell you this in closing. And I am so proud of you, Jason, for the work that you have done on SHR Media. I know that you'll be taking some time off, and I know you'll be talking about that in the latter stages of the show. And we just thank God for your work, sir. You have been steadfast and immovable and a pure delight to work with. But in terms of the politics of it all, 2016 will be a reformation on all congressmen, on all senators, on all politics in America. And it simply comes down to this, and I will close after this statement.
Sure.
It comes down to whether you want to be free or you want to be a slave. And so I'm asking people to join us in prayer all the way through the month of June. I tell you, we will be unleashed and on fire after June. I assure you. And while I'm a commentator, I am not a journalist. I can affect news, and I can also be the news. So I assure you that as far as breath is in me and blood pours in me, America won't be the same. The inner cities won't be the same. And this is a notice to urban America elitists, progressive socialist Marxist leaders. Your time is nigh. Either surrender or come under. Because one way or the other, we're going to get rid of you. And we will replace you with liberty, freedom, and justice for all.
Amen, sir. I can't say it enough, and I can tell you, Ken, we share our beliefs in God. I believe in Jesus Christ just like you do, ladies and gentlemen, and I would like to say on behalf of your daughter, the Lord has said, well done, good and faithful servant, to your daughter, Ken, and he will probably be saying the same to you and your wife, Francine, if I may use her name, when you guys do decide to join him up at heaven's door.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Listen, Godspeed to you, Jason. We hope to see you on the other side. Well, not the other side, but the other side of your wellness period, all right? God bless you, sir. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, Ken. That's Ken McClinton, the Exceptional Conservative, on at the top of the hour, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Stay tuned after the final edition of the Evan Miller Report for the latest from the Exceptional Conservative Show. I'm Jason Miller. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, our final Washington, D.C. political wrap report of this program. We'll be right back.
Every single one of his medical bills. Everything is just all taken care of.
We have phenomenal research, outstanding clinical care, and the generosity of public, which allow us to treat patients regardless of what it takes.
At St. Jude, families never receive a bill for treatment, travel, housing, or food, because the only thing a family should worry about is helping their child live.
Because of you.
Gracias a ti. Because of you.
There is St. Jude.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm Jason Miller. It's now time for the D.C. news here on the Evan Miller Report. House conservatives offered a plan Thursday for repealing President Obama's health care overhaul and replacing it with tax breaks and other changes. But they're still divided over whether to replace the lost subsidies for lower-earning people should the Supreme Court annually annul them this month, on distorting potential problems ahead for the GOP. The Republican Study Committee, which represents about 170 conservatives within the House, members would avoid Obama's 2010 law and create new tax deductions, let small businesses create pools for buying coverage, and making it harder to sue doctors and create a $15 billion fund for federal medical research. Moving on tonight, senior U.S. Senate Democrats said today that they will block spending bills for the fiscal year starting on October the 1st to press their case for scrapping mandatory spending limits that have been in place for the past 2 years. The move represented an early gambit in what is expected to be a difficult partisan clash over U.S. budget and tax policy in the next 4 to 5 months. Congress must then pass a series of fiscal 2016 appropriations bills or a stopgap measure by September 30th to avoid another government shutdown on October the 1st. Another person has added his name to the GOP list of primary runners for the 2016 presidential election. Former Texas Governor Rick Perry made it official today that he is joining the already crowded field of candidates. Perry, whose infamous oops moment during the last GOP primary derailed what had been a promising start to his 2012 campaign, announced his latest bid at a rally inside a hot airplane hangar north of Dallas, Texas. He said, quote, "We're at the end of an era of failed leadership. We are a resilient country. We've been through a civil war, 2 world wars, the Great Depression, even made it through Jimmy Carter. We will make it through the Obama years." Perry was joined on stage by Tanya Cal, widow of the American sniper author Chris Kyle, and retired U.S. Navy SEAL Marcus Luttrell, author of the book Lone Survivor. We have the power to make things new again, to protect America's strength again, and to get our economy going again, he continued, and that is exactly why I'm running for the presidency of the United States. And another one who is showing that he is running but has not made a formal announcement yet, Jeb Bush says he will announce his bid for the Republican presidential nomination on June the 15th in Miami, Florida, finally jumping into the crowded field after a chorus of criticism about how he is handling his non-campaign and moving to bolster his support. The former Florida governor's big event, his hometown, will come shortly after he completes a week-long trip to Germany, Poland, and Estonia. The announcement on Thursday of a date follows several polls that showed his front-runner status has since diminished. But some in the Bush camp have suggested he might wait until July, in fact, to announce his bid, which would give him more time to raise money for the Right to Rise super PAC organization that were one key parts of his campaign. Bush made the announcement coming soon on his Twitter account, linking to a new website. A companion message was also posted in Spanish. Like many other Republicans this year who gave a date for their announcement, Bush did not specifically say when he will run. And we will be right back.
There are more than 3 million children in America's child protective and justice systems. Kids who've been abused, neglected, or traumatized. Kids who've begun to act out. The worst situations you can imagine. They've been told repeatedly they're worthless, messed up, or written off completely as a lost cause. For their safety and others, some of these children have to be removed from their homes. separated from their families. They're at the mercy of an overwhelmed system. Every 38 minutes, another troubled child is referred to Youth Villages. Youth Villages believes that no child is a lost cause, not a single one, because a stable, loving family can help any child succeed. And we have an 80% overall success rate that proves doing whatever it takes for children is the only thing that works. If you agree, find out how you can help at youthvillages.org.
And, ladies and gentlemen, did want to remind you about that National Donut Day story. We were going to do that story right when the Exceptional Conservative called in, but we did want to do that today because it is National Donut Day today. Some of the places that will be providing free donuts, and I know on the East Coast you're running out of time, so you better hurry. Dunkin' Donuts says that it will be offering a free treat all day when you buy a beverage today, as long as supplies left, and is available at all locations across the country. Other locations include Krispy Kremes, where where you can grab one or any of the flavors for free, no purchase necessary. Also going to be available outside the United States in the countries of Puerto Rico and Canada, and if you're overseas, in Australia, Korea, Japan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mexico, the Philippines, Turkey, and so forth. Cumberland Farms gas stations and convenience store chain is also giving free donuts to their customers who buy a coffee or chill zone beverage between 5 a.m. and 10 a.m. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a fan of donuts, certainly like I am, I like the little apple ones with cinnamon on them, by all means, go grab yourself a donut before it's all over. It's National Donut Day. And, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, my co-host, Corey Evan, is off today. And for a very good reason, because Corey Evan flew off to Salt Lake City, where he is preparing for his upcoming marriage to the love of his life, Jennifer Long. I've been authorized to say her name. He will be married on June the 6th in Salt Lake City. My congratulations to Mr. Evan for doing that. And tonight, he's put together for us a package of the best of the lawsuits across America. You've heard the lawsuits across America segment night in and night out. Some of them are horrible, some of them are just funny, and some of them are just downright crazy. So, without any further ado, here's Corey Evan with tonight's Best of the Lawsuits Across America. Corey, take it away.
I thank you, Jay. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and come to order for the final time on the SHR Media Network. The best of lawsuits across America is now in session.
A jury has awarded a St. Louis woman $77 million in damages following a long-awaited legal battle with Wells Fargo Bank. It all started in 2012 when Barbara Morris filed a lawsuit against Wells Fargo after the bank had allegedly mismanaged her family's trusts. This from Inquisitor. Morris, a resident of Olivet, took the case to a St. Louis County Circuit Court late on Monday. Morris alleges that Wells Fargo infringed its fiduciary duty, which resulted in the loss of million-dollar transactions from two family trusts, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch reported on Tuesday. According to reports, Burton Douglas Morris, a Clayton-based financier, is the son of St. Louis resident Barbara Morris, in which she was the beneficiary and co-trustee of both his lost trusts. However, Burton's financial practices have been called into question, including accusations of charmingly misleading and defrauding investors back in 2012. This from the LA Times. In response to the wrongful death lawsuit filed by the stepchildren of wealthy philanthropist Kim Howe, Jenner's Authority claimed last week that Howe's stepdaughter and stepson aren't entitled to damages because of their financial independence. Oh, great. The lawsuit also accuses the Olympian of negligence. William Howe and Dana Redmond, Howe's stepchildren, say Jenner is responsible for causing her death and damage to her effects, according to the lawsuit filed in LA County Superior Court. They said they have suffered enormous damages and losses. Jenner violated the rules of the road and was negligent, careless, and reckless, according to the lawsuit. Well, if you're going to make those claims, you got to explain how he was negligent how he was careless, and how he was reckless. The lawsuit alleges Jenner violated the basic speed law, a California vehicle code section designed to protect their stepmother and other drivers. I'm going to wait for clarification on that one. Her stepchildren say Howe was acting with caution, attention, and care and did not in any way contribute to or cause the crash. Her children say they have lost love and affection as a result of her death. They incurred bills and have had to pay for damages according to the lawsuit. They are seeking unspecified damages. Oh, brother. Claiming that he was negligent, that their mother did absolutely nothing wrong. If you gotta make these claims, you gotta prove it.
It's baloney. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. In a case filed on May 1st, according to rawstory.com, with the district court in Omaha called Driscoll versus Homosexuals, Driscoll identified herself as an ambassador for God and his son, Jesus Christ, as the plaintiff. The defendants, homosexuals. Their given name, homosexuals. Their alias, gay, unquote. Driscoll is representing herself in the case she wrote out by hand on lined notebook paper. Her challenge, petition Your Honor and Court of the United States District Court of Omaha, Nebraska, to be heard in the matter of homosexuality. Is homosexuality a sin or not a sin? I know it is, but at any rate. A few standout quotes from Driscoll's curiously punctuated, grammatically unconventional, Bible verse-intensive lawsuit against gay principle. The homosexuals say it's not a sin to be a homosexual. Hearing the boasting of the defendant, the homosexuals on the world news, from the young to the old, the rich and famous, how they were tired of hiding in the closet, contended that homosexuality is a sin and that the homosexuals know it is a sin to live a life of homosexuality. Why else would they have been hiding in the closet? And deceivers and thieves, that it is reasonable to believe a child will grow up to be one of three, or all three, something. And never before has our great nation, the U.S., and our great state of Nebraska been besieged by sin. The way to destroy any nation or state is to destroy its morals. Yes, it goes on and on and on and on. And like I said, I'll just go ahead and post the whole lawsuits across America docket and let you decide who deserves to be found in favor of.
And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to personally thank you for joining us for the past 2 years for lawsuits across America. Court dismissed. Bring in the dancing lobsters.
Corey Evan always ends the segment with something surprising. The Dancing Lobsters, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, we all know sometimes that is a Nickelodeon knockoff, but hey, I'm all for the Dancing Lobsters. Who knows? I may be going out for lobster after this final show. Ladies and gentlemen, we're almost coming close to the end of our program. 2 years ago, we started this program. We weren't always on SHR. We started off at a small radio station in the LA market called Adrenaline Radio. And we promised people when we came on the air that not only we would bring them the news, we would bring them the truth in the news and tell people the truth every night. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is a look back at our very first show of the Evan Miller Report as it aired on Adrenaline Radio. I'm Jason Miller. Today on the Evan Miller Report, we will get an update on the mountain fire up in Idlewild. We'll get the very latest with a CAL FIRE official. Also today, we'll be covering the latest in the imploding scandal of Bob Filner. We will have political analyst John Dadian on to analyze what is going on down in San Diego and what will happen with Mayor Filner. And also today, we will have Linda Payne to talk to us about the Election Integrity Project and the upcoming special election in District 16 next week on July 23rd. All that and Corey's entertainment segment.
I'm Corey Evan. We are following the royal delivery that is expected to take place any time now. And what will the autopsy reveal in the death of Corey Monteith? All that and more coming up right now on the Evan Miller Report.
Which starts right now.
Live from the Adrenaline Radio studios in Orange County and worldwide at adrenalineradio.com, this is the Evan Miller Report. Jason Miller with news and politics. Corey Evan with entertainment. This is the Evan Miller Report. Here now, Jason Miller.
And a very good evening and a happy Friday to you, Los Angeles and Southern California. Welcome to the very first episode of the Evan Miller Report. I'm Jason Miller.
And I'm Corey Evan.
Thank you for being with us today. This show is going to be a news politics program. Once a week, we're going to catch up on headlines throughout the week and, of course, breaking news. And, ladies and gentlemen, that showed that after that first show, the Evan Miller Report, of course, developed. We broke some big stories on there. So, one such story on the network that first couple months we were on the air in that LA market slot, one day a week, was the revealing that Senator Ted Cruz donated to a pro-Common Core school over in the state of Texas. Still haven't found out why he's done that, ladies and gentlemen, but we do know now from Curtis Ellis of WorldNet Daily that his wife is part of the Council for Foreign Relations and that he is a supporter of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So, ladies and gentlemen, we tried to get Senator Ted Cruz to come on this program many a time for an interview. He has denied us a request for an interview. We can only tell why his staff has decided to do that. Some people say it's money. I just say they're avoiding us altogether. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? We moved from LA Market Radio, decided to take this on the internet radio format because a lot of people, as you may know, get most of their news off the internet these days, and we decided to experiment and take the show to a Monday through Friday slot on Blog Talk Radio. Soon after that, we moved over to the SHR Media Network for 1 year and continued with that same format, went from 2 hours down to 1 hour, which ended up leading to today. We brought you some historical news events throughout the year, including, which is not popular with some, the State of the Union address with President Obama, and we had Orlene Curla on afterwards to analyze the president's address like no conservative radio show can. We also did election coverage for the midterm 2014 elections as well here on SHR. You enjoy doing that. And, of course, our most previous engagement here on the network was the 15th Annual Eagle Forum Conference. We were proud to cover that here on the network and covered such speakers as Ann Shafley Corey, Senator Ted Cruz, his father, Pastor Rafael Cruz, and many more people who spoke at that conference. And we can tell you, people, that we had over 7,000 listeners who tuned in to our coverage of the Eagle Forum Conference. We appreciate you tuning in and time out, and, of course, for people here on the Evan Miller Report. All right, folks, we're almost out of time, but I'd like to give Corey Evan one last minute here to give us a couple of his thoughts before we leave tonight.
Jay, I have learned a lot in my 2 years with the Evan Miller Report. It's introduced me to politics in depth. It has taught me everything that I should have known before about what's going on in our government, all the corruption that's really happening, and just exactly how it affects each and every one of us. I started doing this show, Jay, because I plan to be a family man someday, and I wanted to know exactly what I needed to know in order to raise my family in relatively the same amount of freedom that I have today, and hopefully educate my kids to want the same for theirs. And honestly, I just want the same thing that every red-blooded American wants for his or her family. A sense of freedom and independence. And that's why I did this show. Not just to launch my career, but to help educate others. Help them get a perspective on things as they are, as they have been in the past, and how they might end up being, how they shouldn't be, essentially. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just hopeful that we were able to teach you something while we've been doing the Evan Miller Report. Not the least of which being the Common Core, or as I like to call it, the Rotten Core. And it's still rotting, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully Brad Dacus of the Pacific Justice Institute is right, and Common Core will end up being DOA. And yes, I'm going to hold on to every single lucky charm that I have on that one, as well as hopefully undoing some of the damage, maybe not all of it right away, but at least undoing some of Obama's damage that he's been doing over the past 7 years. In short, America, wake up! The fight is on! and we need every single soldier that we can get. Because every citizen is a soldier, I believe. So I strongly encourage you, in all of the issues that we've talked about here on the Evan Miller Report, I strongly encourage you to call, write, text, fax, or email your representatives, senators, and other local, state, and federal leaders and tell them, wake up! But most importantly, demand the truth. A winner fights for truth. The world needs more winners. And Jay, I leave this with you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
And may God bless you, Corey. Corey Evan, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, that is coming to a close of the final broadcast of the Evan Miller Report. No, may not be the final radio broadcast for me, but I can tell you it is the close of this program. I could tell you when I first wanted to start out in radio, I thought I was going to be the next Peter Jennings. Instead, ladies and gentlemen, it turned out that I wanted to come on the radio to tell people the truth, to tell people what is going on in the day. So, for the final time on the SHR Media Network, this is the Evan Miller Report for Thursday, June the 4th, 2015. For Corey Evan and all of us, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on in the future. Good night.